Hey everybody, what's going on? And welcome to Rock Video Rental. I am Brandon, and with me, as always, is Caleb. We are continuing on with Awesomely Bad Horror Month, and we're going to be talking about a really wacky movie today. It's Brain Damage by Frank Henenlotter. But before we get to that, we're going to do like we always do. And Caleb, have you been watching anything cool?
Well, So Bob's Burgers, um, I think season 3 now. I usually watch at least one of those episodes before I crash each night. Sometimes I go on a little binge. Um,
Ah,
and I don't think I really watched anything else unique. Um, but I did watch the next episode of Fallout. So
okay.
that show's still continuing to do well. And I don't know, it's just been easy and nice for me to kind of do an episode each week. So it does remind me though that the Halo movie or Halo TV series or
Mhm.
whatever you streaming series, I have not watched the latest on. So I feel like I might be going out of order because I have a feeling that if I go to Halo after this, it's going to be a big disappointment. So, but we'll find out. So,
Rock. Well, I've been watching like pretty much the same stuff. Grey's Anatomy, King of the Hill. I'm on like season 4. Getting towards the end of King of the Hill, or the end of season 4 at least. I watched a few Last Drive-In episodes. I caught up with the one that um aired the night of the NFL draft, so I didn't watch it. It was the autopsy of Jane Doe,
okay.
and that was pretty decent. I didn't really know what to expect with that. It's a later 2000s movie. It's got Brian Cox and Emil Hirsch in it, and they're like uh, doing an autopsy of this woman, and they end up finding out weird stuff. I don't know. You probably never watched it, so I'll ruin it for you. And if anybody wants to watch this, just skip over like a minute or so. Well, they go through all this stuff and they find out that like she's a witch from the Salem witch trials,
Okay.
and like her body is like in pristine condition. And while they start going through all this stuff, that stuff goes crazy. Like they find like scars on the inside of her body and tattoos and all this stuff, like how her lungs show that they were like burnt at one point because she was burnt at the stake. And it's just really weird. It's really gory. Um, and the woman on the table that they're examining is an actual actress. So
Okay.
like it's surprising. It sounds weird, but she did a really good job because I mean you got to lay there still like a corpse the whole time,
Right.
and I feel like that takes a decent amount of acting.
Yeah, it would take a lot of self-discipline for sure.
Yeah, but that was definitely a surprise and a decent watch. And then I watched the latest episode. I started watching it when it was live, and then I don't know, I just was like in the mood. I kind of like lost the mood, and I'm like, I'll go back and watch it. But I watched it today, and it was the movie Death Spa, which is like it's kind of like a slasher. It's like a slasher supernatural, almost like Nightmare on Elm Street style. Um, but it takes place in like an 80s aerobic uh spa, like spa and gym. And it's really ridiculous and corny, and yeah, I don't know. It's a fun movie. But
Wow.
I think like the next, so it's not today, which today when this releases, but the next Friday is supposed to be the next one. I think it's going to be they said it was going to be another workout related movie, and I'm wondering if it's going to be Killer Workout, which has Mike Danton in it from Deadly Prey. So I'm kind of hoping it is because that one's really ridiculous too. Oh, and other than all that, I've been listening to the audiobook of Stephen King's It, and that's
Okay.
pretty good. I've never really like listened to an audiobook before, but I noticed on Spotify Premium that I have. that they have audiobooks that are included. So I'm like, oh, that book's like 1,000 pages long, and I'm never gonna read it because I just know how I am. It's like I'll listen to it, and it's been pretty good, really suspenseful.
Hmm.
But other than that, that's pretty much it. Um, I did watch the wacky brain damage, so we should probably just shut up and start talking about that. Brain Damage is from 1988 and is directed by Frank Henenlotter. The plot is one morning, a young man wakes to find a small, disgusting creature attached itself to the base of his brainstem. The creature gives him a euphoric state of happiness but demands human victims in return. The cast, we got Rick Hurst as Brian, Gordon McDonald as Mike, Jennifer Lowry as Barbara, Theo Barnes as Morris, Lucille St. Peter as Martha, and John Zachary goes uncredited as the voice of Elmer.
Okay, I was gonna say somebody's got to be somewhere for that voice.
Yeah. Uh, I'll get a little bit more on who John Zachary is a little bit later on, but I think this is either the second or the third time that I've seen this movie, and it's pretty wacky.
Yeah, as so in the realms of awesomely bad, this is probably the most. I want to say this might be the most bizarre. Um, Ricky O is pretty up there, but this is just like that was Ricky O. I feel like was just way over the top. This one is bizarre out there. Like pretty sure they were heavily on drugs when they put this one together.
Most likely. Frank Henenlotter is probably most known for Basket Case, which is another really weird, crazy horror movie from the 80s. I actually saw that as part of one of those 12-hour horror marathons at the
Okay.
old theater in Howell. It wasn't last year, but it was a year before, and that movie is just it's so crazy. It's a lot like this. Um, and then he also did Frankenhooker, which is another one that's just really crazy and wacky. Um, yeah, he's definitely Frank Henenlotter definitely did things his own way and low budget. But I will say, even though that it's low budget, like some of the special effects are pretty decent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he had a thing for either getting actors that were overly qualified or ones that no one ever heard of.
Nowhere in between.
Yeah, there was nothing in between. It's like, and he had a common thing of reusing the same actors for different things too. Um,
In the same movie or
no, in all of his movies,
okay, I
like
didn't know if like he would have one actor be like, "Oh, I'm the janitor in this place. Oh, I'm like a desk clerk."
yeah, like the dude that was the big jacked up dude with the mustache that was showering in that one scene.
Yeah.
He was also in Frankenhooker, and I believe he was also in Basket Case.
Okay.
Yeah, just random. But yeah, definitely a first time watch for you. I know that.
Yeah, I don't think that should be any surprise because this is definitely not my kind of my typical kind of movie.
Yeah, it's pretty out there. I picked this one because I knew how wacky it was, and there was no shortage of stuff to talk about. Where I feel like with Jaws 3D, we were a little short on things to talk about.
A little bit,
But
yeah. That was a little bit more mainstream, a little bit more timid. This definitely breaks out of the mold.
yeah, this one has a lot of inadvertent humor, and then just like dark humor that was advertent. Um, so many like weird lines and stuff in it. But with a movie like this, it's just so many wacky things that stand out. So I guess we can just kind of talk about that. Um, the movie starts off really weird, like this old couple frantically looking for something, and like the old man brings home like these brains on a plate,
Yeah.
like these animal brains, and they're looking for someone named Elmer and they can't find him, and then they start freaking out, and the woman screams for like way too long.
Yeah, it was over the top. One of the things that I noticed right off the bat was the audio was like all over the place.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely not. It's definitely embraced its low budget aspects in the audio, I would say,
Yeah,
and
like
the music.
the music, the words weren't syncing up. Like one person would be talking and their audio would be low, and then the next person would be at like 11, cranked all the way up, and um,
I can't wait until we watch an Italian horror movie because
okay.
that's gonna throw you off so bad.
Oh gosh.
Because in typical Italian horror, like giallo movies, everybody there is speaking whatever language is native to them, and then they dub everything over in post.
Oh gosh.
So like some actors might be speaking English, other ones might be speaking French, and then some are speaking Italian.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but then they just dub them all over for like if it's an English release and everybody's speaking English.
I guess that's one way to do it.
Yeah, even if they're actually speaking English, they still dub them over in English.
Mm. That's hilarious.
Yeah, very strange. There's a lot of scenes in this of Brian just like tripping out and having hallucinations, all because of this parasite that's like a worm that looks like a turd, kind of,
A blue turd.
but is also very phallic looking.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, he basically like injects some kind of blue liquid into Brian's brain and it makes him trip balls.
Yeah, it doesn't it's just so weird on because not to like cut to the end of the movie or anything, but apparently Almer, this parasite thing, alien or whatever you really want to call it, did not like being kept by the old couple,
Yeah,
but he didn't kill him. It's like
yeah,
what that to me is the biggest head scratcher on this whole thing because like he's easily could have, but he
yeah,
didn't, and he just runs away.
yeah.
So
It makes you wonder, like, because he was with them for a while.
yeah,
Because towards the end of the movie, they say like how old he is and how hard it was to find him, and um, he's like, "Oh, you fool! You fed him human brains."
yeah,
And
and it's just like,
um,
dude, he could have had your brain at any time.
yeah, and then he could have just went and found someone else.
Yeah,
So yeah, I'm not sure what Elmer's game plan was there. It's like, oh, I guess I'll hang out with this weird old couple for a while.
yeah, because then he was making it seem like they were using and abusing him and keeping him captive, and it's just like, dude, if they were keeping you in a tub and you left, why didn't you do it earlier, or what kept you from killing? That is the biggest part. Well, okay, like there are plenty of things about this weird, but that is the biggest part of this whole thing where I'm just like, I feel like they didn't really think that part out.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of throwing out my beef here at the beginning and being like, do something
Uh,
about that.
yeah.
Fill that hole, which actually plays into other things in this movie, I guess. So, ugh.
Yeah.
Not to get ahead of ourselves.
Yeah. And Brian ends up, becoming addicted, like this, like Elmer's a drug basically, to the euphoric sense that he gets from the blue liquid. And it's almost to the point where he kind of just like blacks out, doesn't really know what happens.
Hmm.
And that's when Elmer starts like killing people that Brian encounters. Oh, the first time it happens, like it totally catches you way off guard because he attacks that security guard when Brian's like tripping balls in that junkyard,
Yeah.
and
And
he
then
just like
he
latches onto the guy's forehead
hmm
and eats his brains. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that was I mean, I kind of saw that he was gonna get attacked and everything, but since he was the first one, you're kind of like, how is he gonna get attacked? And then it was right on the front of the head.
Yeah, and then um there's a funny exchange between Brian and Elmer where Brian's like, "What are you doing? Is he okay?" And Elmer's like, "Not bad, a bit underdone." Like that cracked me up.
Yeah, this movie it was kind of strange because it felt like it was moving so fast and then in the middle, well, not even in the middle, but then it like slowed down um in the middle and it was just kind of like really drawn out. Because who was the
Yeah.
second one to die? I can't remember.
Oh, wasn't it that girl in the nightclub?
Was it? Okay, I wasn't sure if there was one before that. So,
Probably the most infamous scene from this movie.
yeah, no kidding.
So, of course, Brian's tripping balls and he goes to like this nightclub and he's dancing around. And for some reason, that's just irresistible to this one woman. She dances with him and then she takes him in an alley and she like tries to service him. And then Albert jumps out of Brian's pants and like goes to her mouth and chokes her and then like starts eating her brain through her mouth. But the whole time, like, yeah.
Yeah, put two and two together, phallic looking alien parasite thing going into a woman's mouth to eat her brains.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
So
Oh yeah, we get the great line too of she like grabs his pants and she says, "Feels like you got a real monster in there."
yeah.
Like that whole scene is just beyond ridiculous.
hmm
And needless to say, the NPAA did not like that scene.
Yeah, not too shocked about that one.
I believe it was cut for censors, but it's fully intact if you got like the special editions and stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah, it's
Uh,
throughout this movie, like I'm not gonna lie, like it was I don't what would be the right way to say it? It wasn't nerve-wracking, but maybe irritating or like not exactly uncomfortable, but the sound effects
yeah,
from the whole thing was just like uh I had gross written down several times throughout this movie. It was just like, I don't know, maybe it was hitting a spot with me, but I was just like, the sound of it all is just like making it so much worse.
yeah,
So
yeah. The sound is definitely a negative for this movie, I would say.
well, no, I mean, from the special effects standpoint of like when he's attacking or whatever, I don't know, like the slimy slurping, weird,
Gargling noise.
yeah,
Yeah,
squishing, all that. Like honestly, that's probably the best part of all the sounds, because it was done well, but it was on purpose being that whole like uncomfortable kind of gross thing, and I was just like,
yeah.
that was just like, okay, all right, next thing.
Unsettling.
Yes,
Um,
quite so.
yeah, the audio that you said, like the dialogue and stuff, how it's kind of up and down, that's a negative part,
Oh yeah,
which is what I
absolutely.
thought you were getting at first.
Yeah.
But yeah, Brian has like another hallucination too, where he's like out with his girlfriend and he sees like brains and spaghetti.
Oh gosh,
That
yeah.
part's weird. That was almost like a Three Stooges gag thing. Um, and then it's soon after that where he confronts Elmer, who Elmer's voice was just like perfect. He's like a upscale British accent. Oh, hello, kind of thing.
Yeah, they had to make him out to be smarter or something, I guess.
Yeah,
Or
he's very like manipulative.
well, yeah, because yeah, so that was when he confronted him, and that was shortly after he had the conversation with that old guy
Yeah. When the
about
guy
like,
drops like a ton of exposition on him.
yeah, and and it didn't really make sense to me. Like they were trying to explain him as like this powerful, mystical kind of thing, parasite, whatever, that
Yeah.
it sought by some of the most powerful people in the world, but he doesn't do anything.
No.
Like he just is a drug,
Yeah, basically, he's like acid, but he eats brains.
right?
Oh, I forgot there's a funny line too, like when he first confronts Elmer, because he's like, "What happened?" He's like, "What happened to that girl?" And he's like, "Oh, I ate her brains through her mouth." He's like, "You what?" He's like, "Yeah, I ate her brains through her mouth. Like, what's the big deal?" And Brian's like, "Well, when it comes to blood on my underwear, I kind of want to know how it got there." That's what the funniest parts of this movie are just like the back and forth between him and Elmer
Oh
and
yeah.
how like nonchalant Elmer is about killing people and how Brian just like freaks out about everything.
Hmm.
Oh. So after he confronts him, then he's basically just going cold turkey on Elmer. And the whole time Elmer's like trying to get him to, use him again so he can feed on brains, blah blah blah. And Brian has like a freak out where he like pulls his ear off and then like a whole bunch of stuff comes out of his head and then there's like this huge geyser of blood.
Yeah,
They like shove it and it's excessive.
that was another excessive and kind of like over the top thing where like the sound effects audio made it that much worse.
Yeah.
So,
And Brian's just like, oh, the whole time. That's one scene I really remember from this as well. It's very much like Evil Dead 2
okay.
comedy, where it's just wacky and tons of blood and just to the point where it just is nonsensical,
Hmm.
which yeah, happens a lot in the Evil Dead movies. Uh, I already mentioned the big jacked up guy in the shower. That whole scene was rather pointless. It's like I don't know if like I think Frank Henlotter was friends with the dude, and you just like to put him in his movies. Let's
He's
put
kind of
this big
like
jacked up dude in it.
Ventura and Arnold.
Yeah, it just Ventura is just along for the ride. Uh, oh, we get that one guy too who's just taking a dump, and Elmer ends up eating his brains. Poor dude can't even take a crap.
Yeah, it totally reminding of the Friday the 13th.
Those damn enchiladas. Oh man, did you notice too when that guy was taking a crap? There was no toilet paper on the roller.
Yeah,
Oh,
he
that's
was
the
just
worst.
he was just chilling and he wasn't worried at all because he wasn't in any hurry, it seemed like.
Right. Oh, oh. Then Brian kills his girlfriend in a subway.
Yeah. Well, even before that, like
His brother like bangs his girlfriend.
his brother bangs his girlfriend. Like what and his brother doesn't even have a room, like he's sleeping on the couch.
Yeah. Oh man, jacked up stuff. Oh, the old couple also pull a gun on Brian. Like, give us Albert back, he's mine. And then that's when Elmer finally kills the old people, which is probably what he should have done like 60 years ago.
Right. And
Uh,
well, so oh well, I'll let you. I'm probably gonna get a little ahead here, so go ahead. I'll
I
let
was
you
gonna
finish.
say he killed the old lady, and then he seemingly killed the old man by eating his brain. But then uh Brian like has Elmer like attached to his head again, and then the old man comes out of nowhere and grabs Elmer and just squeezes him to death
Right.
and throws him on the ground. Like that's all you had to do to him.
I know. That's what I was waiting for. I was just kind of like this whole thing where it's just like, I mean, maybe he's super elusive or something like you're telling me that for these hundreds of years that the old guy was saying that this thing was around at least for hundreds if not thousands of years that no one else was just like, why don't I just squish this thing?
Yeah, why don't I just throw it on the ground and stomp on it? Because he's basically like a slug. Yeah, plot hole there, I guess. This leads Brian to like go up into his room and he's gonna shoot himself, and he does, but it doesn't like kill him. But all of a sudden, like a whole bunch of lights and stuff shoot out of his head and lightning, and then that's the end of the movie,
Yeah.
which is kind of a Frank Henenlotter thing. Like none of his movies can have happy endings.
Well, I was totally prepared for it to be one of those where it's just like the the horror thing, the
Yeah,
like a general movie, there's a horror something, parasite, whatever, and it just moves on to the next host, which that wasn't the case in this one, but it was very ambiguous, very weird, and yeah, it made no sense.
yeah, not at all. It's just a surprise, I guess. At least it left you with a surprise. Um, I will say though that the guy that plays Brian, I thought did a decent job. Like he's not an amazing actor, but um,
Dude,
he played
he had to be
crazy pretty
crazy.
well.
Yeah, he did
Yeah,
crazy really well. Like, I
and
mean,
disassociated
mm-hmm.
too, where he was just kind of like didn't really care about anything. He did that pretty well.
Yeah.
He went on to have like a long career, but he didn't do very many movies. He did lots of soap operas,
Okay.
like pretty much every single soap opera you can think of he was in. So that doesn't really surprise me because, like I said, he's decent, but he's not a great actor. That's why I feel like soap operas kind of lend themselves to those style of actors. And I will say that the Elmer puppet was pretty decent for being so low budget.
Okay, so you want to know my thoughts on the Elmer puppet?
Yeah.
Do you remember what the Koopa looks like in Super Mario Bros.
Yes.
1993?
With the big googly eyes.
Yes.
Yeah.
This, I'm looking at a picture of it right now, and in my head it looked a lot more similar.
Yeah.
But there are some similarities for sure. And that was what I thought of like every time they showed the Elmer thing talking.
You know what's funny though is that the Super Mario Brothers movie had millions of dollars for the budget, and this had less than a million.
Right.
So that's pretty sad. Like when the Elmer puppet was talking and like wriggling around a little bit on his back, it looked really good. Um, and then there was like the scenes where he would, inject the blue stuff into Brian's brain and like his mouth just kind of slides open.
Yeah.
That part looked kind of bad. But I mean, all in all, it looked pretty decent for being such a low budget movie.
Yeah.
And I love the stop motion parts because I always love stop motion. Which I will say that the stop motion in this is better than the stop motion that's in Basket Case.
Okay.
Um, yeah, that one's pretty clunky, but it's that movie is so wacky that it's funny. Uh, I don't know if we really missed anything else. None of the other actors really like stood out to me. The girlfriend was just kind of like, whatever, and the brother, I guess, was okay, but
Yeah. No, it was all about Brian and
an Elmer,
Elmer.
yeah,
And so yeah, so everybody else was just kind of there. I mean, the old couple was just over the top ridiculous. His girlfriend Barbara was kind of mm, meh.
flat.
Yeah, flat. And his brother did what he needed to do. But nobody really shined. Nobody really did. I mean, it's not even like there was very much opportunity for anybody to shine. I mean, that girl at the club, you know, did a fine job,
Hmm.
but it's not like she had dropped any major lines or anything to. give a epic performance at all. But yeah, I mean, kind of what I would have anticipated from a movie, at least from that standpoint, the most of the performances. And just because I said that Brian really, or the guy who played Brian did a really great job, um, I mean, again, too, it's not exactly an Oscar performance or something of that sort, but I I think it's a lot harder to do crazy than some other things.
Yeah,
So,
believable crazy.
and not, I mean, it would have been okay with this one for it to be cheesy crazy because of the overall mood of the film,
Yeah.
but I mean, it was convincing. I don't know if I would say believable, but convincing. And um, yeah, he just did a good job. And gosh, frankly, honestly, I would be kind of curious on how much screen time that guy had
Hmm.
because, like we said, this movie was the Brian and Aylmer show. So I
Yeah.
mean, he was on the screen a long time, and it's a good thing he did a decent job because if not, then this would have just, well, I mean, I guess with it being awesomely bad, it could have added an interesting factor to it, but it probably could have just dragged it down.
Right. Oh man, so trivia and facts. So during the fellatio scene, the crew walked out of the production refusing to work on the scene. A similar incident happened during the shooting of Basket Case as well.
Crazy.
Yeah. So on the subway, Brian sees a man who is carrying a basket with a lock on it. This is actually the character Dwayne Bradley with Belial inside the basket, and those are the two characters from Basket Case.
With
I don't know if you noticed it, like they zoomed right in on him.
with what was in the basket?
It's his deformed, separated twin brother.
Okay. Oh yeah, I remember you talking about that a little bit.
Yeah. He's basically just like a lump of clay with arms on it. But, one of the gurgling sound effects that was used for Elmer's um, actually came from the star Rick Hurst. Hurst's stomach would make a gurgling sounds after the actor drank coffee on an empty stomach.
Okay.
Uh, when Henenlotter found this out, he had Hurst go into a sound booth so he could record the noise with the microphone and place it against Hurst's stomach.
Man, that may have been part of the reason why it bothered me so much.
Baby, did the mud butt sound? So Frank Henenlotter reportedly gave up cocaine and wrote this film as a metaphor for his experience.
What?
Might be the only dude who's even wackier when he's not on drugs. Uh, the movie budget was so low that the production couldn't afford to have multiple sets running at once. Therefore, every sequence of the film that took place on a certain set, such as Brian's apartment, the courtyard, the health club, the hotel, etc., had to be shot all at once. So the set could be struck and a new one built in its place.
Oh man, that sounds really complicated.
Yeah. So, the first cut made of brain damage by Frank Henenlotter was only 66 minutes long. Uh,
What?
putting it short on time for a feature film, he went back and reinserted sequences and shot shots that were previously edited out to extend their running time.
Okay then.
The only film permit that the production ever got was to shoot the subway sequence. So it was mostly shot without permits. So this is Rick Hurst's first movie.
Oh, dang, not bad.
Yeah. Frank Henenlotter is an expert on exploitation movies. He is known as like um an archivist or archivist or whatever you want to say that. And he is incredibly well versed in B movies.
Rock.
The voice of Aylmer had to be added in post-production because the mechanics of the puppet were so noisy.
Well, that's not too shocking.
So originally, New Line Cinema was interested in distributing the film, but some partners of the company strongly refused after seeing the screening of it.
Oh my gosh, that's I don't know why that makes me laugh so much because it's just like, oh, this sounds interesting. Oh, interesting concept, interesting beginning. Oh my gosh, the middle. What the heck?
Uh, so John Zachary, who was the voice of Aylmer, is known as the original horror movie host.
Okay.
Henlotter actually upped Zacherle's payment and uncredited him so SAG wouldn't find out and take their dues from him.
Hmm.
He had like a list because he really wanted Aylmer to have a British accent and sound like sophisticated.
Okay.
So he had like a list of actors or whatever voice actors on there, and John Zachary stood out big time to him because he was a famous horror movie TV host along the lines of like Elvira or Joe Bob Briggs or something like that. But yeah, he was like the original one,
The
and he
oh,
was so excited to see him on there. That's why he gave him extra money. He's like, I can't be. He's like, I feel like it's a slap in the face to pay John Zachary as little as what this role has.
yeah, the when you said the description of it and everything, the first thing that came to mind was Michael Caine.
Yes.
Could you imagine?
He probably would have done it. Take a paycheck.
It's like, hey, buy me another house.
Yeah. My cocaine. Oh man. So the ear ripping scene and blood had to be removed in order for the movie to get an R rating.
Hmm.
The same thing with the nightclub scene. It had to be removed to get an R rating.
Shocker.
And the last thing I got is this movie had a $900,000 budget, and I do not have the box office for it. There's no
What?
information on that.
No way.
I'm assuming it probably had like early small release and then it ended up getting a VHS release and got cult status from there.
Yeah, more than likely.
Yeah. Okay, so grades. I pulled from IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes. And what do you think those are?
Yeah, IMDb through 2.9.
IMDb is a 3.7.
What? No way. It's the same as Jaws 3D. Yeah.
You know what? Maybe I got the wrong one. Let me double check. Sometimes I forget to erase my notes here. Dude, it's even way higher. It's a 6.5.
Oh my gosh. What the heck?
Yeah, 6.5.
No,
Um,
dude, that's even that's even more mess. 6.5. 6.5. That's higher than Critters. That's higher than Hard Tickets Why. Okay, fine. Higher than Congo. Higher than Children in the Corn. Higher than higher than Fade to Black. No.
yeah, yeah. Well, what about Rotten Tomatoes? What do you think those are?
Rotten Tomatoes. Man, no, I think the critics would squash on this movie. So 30%.
67.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. What the heck, dude? Okay, give me
Right?
something here. Give me 49% for the audience.
64.
Oh my gosh.
I'm kind of surprised too, especially if that 6.5 on IMDb
Yeah, IMDb,
is notoriously like tough on movies.
yeah, that is so weird. Maybe maybe so few people have seen it that's all a cult following, and so they all give it like better ratings than it should.
Maybe. It's got 13,000 um ratings on IMDb.
Okay, then.
I will say that the poster slash VHS cover is really cool.
I
Did you happen
think
to see that?
I think I did.
It's like Brian screaming and like his face is cracked. Chunks of his face are flying off and there's light behind it.
Hmm.
That's pretty cool looking. But you want to go first with your grade?
Sure. So this just really didn't hit it for me. Like I'll give it definitely give Brian credit. Give the I mean the special effects were decent. The audio for like the special effects and things like that, I thought were rather effective. But then the other acting, the audio for just general dialogue, um, and kind of some major plot holes, which isn't too shocking. Just didn't really the just kind of weighted down too much, and the awesomely bad factors in this movie were not enough to lift it up, in my opinion. So, man, I don't know. I'm trying to give it a rating for what it is and not just come straight in because I mean, like, I'll openly admit, like, I didn't this wasn't one that I really enjoyed. And honestly, like, if I had gone and seen this in the theater, I probably would have walked out. I probably would have been like, okay, this is not for me. Like, cool. Like, I'm done. Um, so like I I want to give it points for being unique, however weird and crazy it was. That was unique, and some credit for Brian's performance and the execution of Aylmer in general. So I think that I can give it a a 1.5. I think
Okay.
that's where I'm going to land with it. There is definitely a little personal bias that's kind of weighing it down, but I don't know, man. It did not. I have a feeling that you and I are both going to be like way like very far on this one. So I don't know. I mean, because I look at it too, because I kind of compare these things and everything. Where I look at it with like Jaws, I would probably watch Jaws 3D before I watch this one again.
Okay.
And not from the fact that I feel like Jaws 3D is an entertaining movie, but just like I don't know, like it was weird. It was a little bit on the weird side of me where it just did not strike a chord with me. So I don't know. I'm not sure, but that's where I landed. I mean, the high I was a little bit between a 1.5 and a 2, but like that's where I would have been hanging out. So I'm just sticking with 1.5.
Okay. Yeah, we're pretty different. I ended up giving it a 4.
Okay.
I don't know, I like the really wacky, weird stuff and like the kind of humor that Frank Henenlotter had.
Hmm.
And just I respect it too for the fact that like he never compromised and he made what he wanted. Um, no matter how bizarre or like disgusting it is at times.
Right.
With the whole club scene and everything, like, and obviously the people working on it were just like kind of disgusted by it, but like he had a vision, he went with it. This is kind of what he did. Uh, and I don't know if it made a difference too that both times that I've seen this, I've watched like the Joe Bob Briggs episode where he talked about it.
Okay.
So it's, it gets split up with him giving facts and telling stories about the movie. So I don't know if that makes a difference or not. But
Hmm.
I will say that I like Basket Case more than this because Basket Case is just so ridiculous and um I don't know, just wacky fun. Where this one takes itself, I guess, a little more serious than that one does.
Okay.
But yeah, I think a 4 out of 5 was fair for me. But I can see it, if it's not your style of movie, then you wouldn't enjoy it as much.
Yeah,
It's definitely not a movie that I recommend to people. If they're like, "Oh, have you seen Basket Case? I like that." I'm like, "Oh, then you should watch Brain Damage."
right. Well, it is kind of interesting because I do feel like out of all the movies that we've watched, like this is one of the first, because I'm not much of a horror person in general anyways, but like I have a great appreciation for some of the movies that we've watched. Like I mean, we just got um we've got some great movies lined up for Rocktober this year.
Hmm.
Um most if not all that I haven't seen actually. But like I don't know, this one just like the because I will admit, there was a humor element and everything too, but just like I don't know, like there was just something with it where and again, like I said, I'll be open and honest. I'm trying not to get too much personal bias in it. Um, but like I don't know, it just didn't hit anything with me where I felt like I could give it too much. Um, so I don't know. That I because it's not too often that you and I are far off on things. So,
Right. Yeah.
but
No, I get it. Well, it's like one of the main differences too with like our viewing habits. Like I lean more towards like the goofy, ridiculous, kind of campy stuff
hmm
where you can digest like the slower burns, like
like the
slower burn
Postman,
dramas. Yeah.
Waterworld.
Yeah, stuff like that.
Yeah.
More than I can. Like, 'cause I don't know if my attention span just not what it used to be.
Poor Things. Oh
But
my gosh. That
yeah, I
one.
couldn't make it through that.
Yeah, no, I don't blame it. That one was a struggle for me. So, anyways, yeah. No, I get that. I totally understand. Yeah, it was just and I can totally understand where you're coming from. Like this is kind of one of those things like in the horror genre where it's just like, yeah, I could see this totally having a cult following because it is unique. Like giving it credit for it being unique, but yeah, I don't know.
All
That's
right.
where we are.
Well, next week's gonna be another kind of goofy one. It's not as like wacky as this is. It has some humor to it, but it's a little more clever.
Okay.
Um, and it's got one of the all-time most ridiculous titles to it, and it's Chopping Mall, where I believe the tagline was "Where shopping costs you an arm and a leg."
Nice.
Something like that. One of the greatest VHS covers as well. It's a robotic hand hanging onto a red paper bag that has body parts in it.
Okay.
Yeah. The movie was also called Killbots. So we get some great robot action.
Hey, can't go
Uh,
wrong with robots.
yeah, next week. And this one's definitely more like awesomely bad than really the rest of them this month. So looking forward to that. And it's been a little while since I've watched Shopping Mall.
Rock.
But it's commonly found in one of those DVD packages where you can get like 4 or 5 movies for like $8 or something. But it's definitely worth your money if you do that. But if you guys are liking the show, please subscribe and share. If you want to follow us on social media, we're on pretty much every platform. We're releasing tons of content now on YouTube and TikTok, and we have a clip on Instagram that kind of took off. And it didn't take off on any other platform, so I'm not quite sure why, but hey, I'll take it. Um, we've got some even videos of like older wrestling stuff too, so if you guys are into that, check it out. But come by next week. We're going to be talking about Chopping Mall. And until then, as always, be kind and rewind.